Hello,
Damn
good
you found.
morning. Welcome into another episode of Good Morning NASDAQ right here on the Clover Trading YouTube channel. You got Huddy, you got Dom. It is the 16th day of July, year of our Lord 2024, as we tackle another day in the markets. It is a Tuesday here as we move into the first half of this week. Thought yesterday was going to be wild and volatile and crazy, and it appeared that it was not so. Not really any buttons clicked for me. I don't think Huddy clicked any really either. There was not a lot setting up. Nothing from the watch just really panned out. And that's why if you go and rewatch yesterday's episode, I know Good Morning NASDAQ's not necessarily a study material to go back on. It's more of a relevant in the here and now. But you hear us cautioning against just getting a thesis, getting all convicted one way or another. Today's the day I gotta click buttons. And we just say, no, we come to the market every day with the same perspective. I got my watch list. If it's on my watch list and it sets up, I click the buttons. If it doesn't, I don't. And when you simplify the game to that degree, you sleep a lot better at night. Your performance is a lot better. And at the end of the day, you're more consistent, which is what we really all want, considering we all have plans to do this for 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40 years. How are we doing this morning, Huddy?
Good. We're in the middle of nowhere, which is
Nice.
always great because we can trade from anywhere in the world and be here when there's opportunity and trade when we need to. So it's always a great reminder that this is the best job in the world if you can learn how to be disciplined and consistent about what you trade and don't trade. DJT, kind of exactly what I suspected, which is, kind of 50-50 shot, whether it goes up or down. But at the end of the day, they did have some, dilutive situations that were in the background looming the whole time that it was kind of spiking. And they looked like they registered a bunch more shares to sale in the after hours. So kind of my suspicions that it, walks like a duck, quacks like a duck. It's probably not going to deserve this 50% gap up just because of, an attempt on a president's life. It doesn't really change the fundamental structure of the company. Now, over the next few months, does it reclaim, and come back? Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't. But we don't really play guessing games here. We like to have concrete facts.
I hate playing guessing games. It's like my least favorite
Stupid.
type of game in general. Yeah, why don't you guys get over in the Clover Trading YouTube chat and comment right now. Say, I was disciplined yesterday and I stuck to my plan. Or say, I got a little too funky with it. If you weren't patient, if you just bought stuff because other people told you to. Let us know. Let us know. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. It's free. It's easy to do. I can maybe even make a video about it. You just take your cursor, you go over to the subscribe button, you click it, and then you go over to the thumbs up button. You hit that as well. And then you're all set for the morning. All your good juju and your karma is set. Life should be great. People should be really nice to you. Things should just fall your way. And as always, we like to get to 50 likes. I don't care how many viewers. I don't care if there's 10 viewers. I want 50 likes. But tell your friends, tell your grandmas, tell your sisters, subscribe on their phones, whatever you have to do. We're trying to grow this thing and get to 5K subscribers by whenever we get there. That was our goal. All right, not a ton on Gap Scan today. We have one runner in the triple digits, over 100% this morning. Everything else is kind of bleh. My watch list is quite packed. I'm very happy today's not Wednesday, and I'd have to be doing this with one screen up here. But as far as gappers go, kind of quiet. Anything you want to say about gappers before we get into them, since we only have one, about the theme of them right now, just what you're seeing out of them?
It kind of feels like we're in maybe a bit of a limbo. Like I said, I didn't like the gappers yesterday because they were kind of tied to or dependent on what DJT would do. Like that's kind of the chessboard that was laid. Um, so I think it's really just being about patient, about waiting for, better stocks to be gapping up, things that are more obviously scam related, or just putrid stocks that we've traded in the past. Um, I haven't really seen any gappers that I've really liked in a long time in terms of like a short sale pattern. So honestly, I just haven't really taken many trades in July, and that feels kind of right, right? There are some markets that are conducive to being active, and there are some that are not. And right now, it just feels like patiently wait for the right things to set up, because a lot of the things that are setting up feels like you kind of have to force yourself to take the trade, and those are the ones that don't make a difference in the account really at the end of the day. Like even if you win, it's kind of just like lack of confidence or whatever it is. It's just hard to really make good money from that when we're in this kind of situation. So just waiting for better situations to come up and arise. And looks like we have kind of a interesting lone wolf today in Silo. And so let's get right on into that.
Let's get into it. Sometimes less is more. I know it's been that way for me this month. Anytime
Yeah.
I'm hovering around a 50% win percentage, I'm being disciplined. I'm being patient. I know Huddie's been the same way. Less button clicking, but better turnout than previous months. So let's do it. Silo, or as I call it, Silo. Silo Pharma, a biotech out of the United States with a 3.56 million float, obviously a biopharmaceutical company. They're focused on the merging traditional therapeutics with psychedelic research for people suffering from indications such as PTSD, Alzheimer's, and other rare neurological orders. Wow, right up your alley, Huddy. They got news, and it secures exclusive global license for Alzheimer's therapeutic. They've had news every 10 to 12 days or so. Anxiety, lead candidates, drugs, PTSD, ketamine implant for fibromyalgia. A month ago, they closed a 2 million RDO at the market. Let's see here. Anything in the dilution you see? They have 27 months of cash. Overall risk is low across the board. Anything
Yeah,
you
nothing
see?
really dilutive, nothing like that. They're not strapped for cash. Like they have money. My main concern for them would be like, do they really have a product? Like generally a company that's trying to solve Alzheimer's is not going to be a dollar stock. There's a lot of if statements within the PR about bringing this product to market. So I think it's a lot of hope and dreams and wishes in order for them to actually achieve what they are trying to set out to do. It's just my subjective opinion based off how I read the PR. But they have the money. So 50-50 on how I feel about it. But $1 stock trying to solve Alzheimer's generally doesn't work out from what I've seen. I've seen a number of tickers in my career of 9 years that have tried to solve Alzheimer's and cancers and all these big buzzwords of diseases. And it's really just a way for them to put cash in the bank. So we'll see if that was any different.
I mean, some of them we've been trading for 8 or 9 years, and they're still trying, and it doesn't look like they're closer every time we pull up their fundamentals. But taking a look at the daily chart for SILO, you got an interesting one in terms of what we generally pay attention to, which is why we kind of ignore a lot of stocks that you guys bring up in the mid to large cap space, where there's volume churning every single day, and they're just kind of trending. It's a lot less predictable what it's going to do today. Silo, not the case. We have a lot. I mean, it's not every day, but there's a lot of days in which volume does come into this stock. And we have a lot of days where you can look at and go, what is the behavior and the trend on days that this stock gaps up or gets volume? And I see a lot of wicks into this guy. I see a lot of tops in this $2 to $3 area. It's coming off of new lows in 2024 of all-time lows, and right now spiking right into recent resistance in the 190 to 250 area. That kind of the first thing you see as well, Huddy.
Yep, I see a couple of those.
Which is something we like to do. What we want to do with Good Morning NASDAQ is kind of show you what we do when we pull these stocks up for the first time. For the most part, like this is the first time I'm seeing SILO's daily chart, going through its fundamentals, talking about its news. And those are my thoughts in real time. It's just what happens on big volume days. And it doesn't necessarily need to be massive dollar volume for me to care. It really just has to be an outlier day compared to what it's doing on most days. And you can see here, we generally trade 17K, 1K, 5K, 23K, 200K. Not a lot. And then one day we do 16 mil. That's a day that I'm interested in, and that's a day in which we gap up, we push a little bit, and then close below the open. Similar, right here, not a lot of volume on these days, but the last time it was in this 2 to 250 area, it failed, and that led to new lows on the daily chart. So this is one that's kind of coming out of that area back to where it was, and having to go 115% to get there. So not a stock that has a good history of running. Lowish float, 3.56 million. Doesn't look like there's a ton of dilution, but is a biotech. Nothing here from a long perspective at all for me. And being up 115+%, I do think it's probably going to be the number one watch for most gap and croppers today. And I don't hate those odds for it being closing lower than it opens this morning.
The only issue with that whole thesis that I can foresee is that when you only have one stock that's posting kind of like a big gap up on the day, regardless of what Dom and I think, a lot of short sellers are going to be interested in it, and sometimes that can flip the script if it's you hear all the time about crowded trades, right? I don't think there's a world where a lot of longs are going to try to want to buy the stock. So there's a world where a lot of short sellers are in, and maybe for good reason, maybe. And if they're all wrong at the same time, it can create a squeeze. So just as always, if you're going to come to the market, whatever you are, long or short, just have the right trade plan, respect your risk, and execute as best as you can for what your pattern demands.
Exactly. That is Silo. Biggest percent runner on the day. How did the Gap and Crappers do yesterday? We had DATS that ended up kind of coming back in the afternoon. ARE. What was the last letter? B?
AIRE.
AREB. The lower priced one opened up near $1. That one worked out quite well. Wasn't there one more? SNCI, SCNI? Or... Gosh, my brain's working. SCNI. My brain's working today. That would end up spiking a bit, halting out of the gate, and then fading, and then lower this morning. So far, the precedent being that none of them have really squeezed out and held up. So we will see if Silo continues that. See how high it opens. We still got 27 minutes till the open. But that is your biggest percent mover on the day. Let's see if there's anything else kind of popping in. PAPL is Pineapple Financial. That is starting to move a little bit, or maybe was moving earlier, and now is creeping back up into the scanner, up 50 to 70% whenever you look at it. We can take a quick look while we have the time here. Pineapple Financial, 4.3 million float. Mortgage finance out of Canada on the American exchange. No news that I see today. 1.2 months of cash left. And some convertibles that are converting at $1. Chart-wise, really blah. If you take kind of the process I just went over with Silo into, where are the days that this stock has traded big volume, what has it done on those days? Kind of have wicks in the sky, closes below the open. It's going to be tough on these charts to see, but you kind of hasn't been around that long since the end of 2023. Once it kind of got done with the IPO stage, has faded off to brand new lows all the way down towards 60 cents before popping this morning. And it looks like it just popped up here at 9 o'clock. Something had to happen, some sort of news that I don't see yet. So we'll see if this one even opens up at these levels or higher. But daily chart, really nothing to write home about. And not a great history of big runs. And not up enough to, I think, warrant a lot of interest. Talk to me.
I see a PR on BAMSEC. It says that at least the AK came out today, announces 20.43% revenue growth in fiscal 2024 third quarter ended May 31st. So maybe it's like preliminary earnings that is gapping this thing up, which is not something that I generally enjoy short selling. I don't like to short based off of fundamental news. I'm much more excited about hype and perceived events instead of facts. So I am seeing that on bamsec.com as of today. Okay.
Yeah, but
also,
talk.
Also an offering from 7/10. They have a Form 424B3 up to 13 million shares that the selling security holder may sell from time to time in one or more transactions. So that's confusing.
Okay. Well, that is PAPL. If that floats your boat, that's all you need to know about it. Let's see. What's going on there? Those are the biggest movers of the day. Quite boring morning on the gapper front. Silo is quite clearly the leader. Let's see what you guys are saying. Happy said no one responded to my question of saying that you either got funky. Oh, yay. Trade Floor says he got funky. Nice. Thomas got a little too funky as well. Yeah, Mondays, I think it's just, I mean, over my entire career, I don't know. I checked a couple years ago, and I was never all that profitable on Mondays just because it's so easy to get so excited because, you take the weekend off, and if you're passionate about trading, kind of feels like it's day one of like a big game. and you go through the weekend, it's a break. All you do is you think about trading over the weekend, then it's finally here, and you want to click buttons, you want to make money. And for me, it's just better to take Mondays really, really slowly, as to not set a bad tone for the week or feel like I'm always coming back on the week versus slowly trending upwards. Parker says KZIA first green day watch for me as well. I see people talking about it in the room, and I was just hoping it's not. So it's not up that much already, 13%. A lot of range here. Reminds me a lot of MBIO from like a month ago. Same price range, 20-30 cent area. I think MBIO topped out around $1.30. This one topped out $1.50, but both came back to 50 cents. So KZIA is actually further off its highs. But no rushing in. I don't trade pre-market on these. I'd rather trade the open volume, the open range and volatility in the pattern, and it might work here or there when you do it, but for me, pre-market trading is just a waste of time unless it's a really, really big first red day. But buying pre-market is just something that once you get in the habit of doing, all of a sudden I'm buying KZIA because it has to be a first green day this morning, and then it's at 48 cents by the open. I'm like, okay, I would have never traded this and taken a loss if I didn't touch it in pre-market. So for me, there's a strict rule about pre-market trading. I got to wait till the open and trade the patterns from there, because that's what I've tracked is from the open, not from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. But clearly on watch, beautiful setup here. We've talked a lot about it over in the Clover room. I have a webinar today at 11 a.m. for all you 4-leaf Clovers, so I'm sure we will talk about this one, whether it works, whether it doesn't, whether I miss, whether it's at 75 before the open and it's just a no trade, but will go down as a good setup in terms of how it has gotten here and what I'm looking for when it comes to first green days. Red candle says AUR first green day. Oh, first red day.
I have
Talk
AUR.
about it. What? AUR.
Yeah, I mean that looks like a first red day type of setup. You got 3 big green candles in a row. The volume is increasing. My only knock on it would be that it's not really all that volatile. 3 days from $3 to $4.60 is really only a 30% move. So I'd probably want another green day and maybe something that kind of shows me that a blow off top or exhaustive volume has been put in. That would be, I think, more ideal. Although, yeah, I could see kind of a red day similar to LCID yesterday coming from this chart, but it's probably not something that I'm trading personally.
Yeah, kind of the same reason why I avoided LCID. It ended up being good, but with AUR, it just doesn't fit the same generic mold that we're really looking for, especially earlier when they talk about the volume. This is doing pretty much 5 to 10 million every single day, no matter what's going on in the world, no matter where the stock's at. It's doing very similar volume, which means it's very difficult to predict. You have a very similar run back here where it kind of extends itself from 3 to 430, very similar percent move, and it spends 3 days kind of going higher, kind of going lower, and there's no predictability. There's always a world where it works today, and it does go red for the first time in 3 days and has a nice 10-15% pull. But I have enough stuff on my watch that I'm interested in that this just doesn't go there. You also have the resistance up here at 480, so definitely could stuff out and top out, but doesn't mean it has to do a move versus when KZIA bounces, I expect there to be a 20-30% move. When it has its first red day, I expect there to be a 30-40% pullback. And it's hard to really feel confident about that on these higher market cap stocks, which I'm guessing that AUR is 4.4 billion. So there you go. Someone says thoughts on IVP. Yeah, I looked at this one last night in pre-market, or last night in the after hours. I don't have thoughts here. This is starting to get into no man's land, at least for me. I think you have a couple solid breakouts worth trading, at least in hindsight. This kind of it's a gap and crap that turns into a squeezer based off that they do some dilution down here, and shorts just kind of get a little too comfortable. And they've had a really nice trend on this one, and it's just kind of higher, low, higher, low, higher, low with occasional squeeze outs. We had a first green day or reversal turn into a breakout on Friday, higher yesterday, but then faded off all day. I don't see a clear first red day pattern. I don't see a clear breakout right now. I see the breakout level, but I'm not interested in buying that today because it hasn't had a red day. I don't have thoughts. Those are my thoughts. I'm just telling you what's happened because I don't know what to do with this. It's either going higher or lower from here, but we are in some sort of consolidation range, And maybe by tomorrow, I'm more in the boat of, okay, this looks like it's going to squeeze out over 14. And if the latter happens and it goes below 9, I won't be shorting that. So we're kind of in no man's land for me here.
Yeah, it's definitely been a tricky one for short sellers so far. Every time that you think you're going to get paid, it just kind of squeezes back and traps the lows, which is just trappy action. So, and it's also super low floats. So it's easier for them to trap this stock and, bring nightmares for shorts. So I've avoided it up to this point. I do think it is extended. I do think there's probably a world where this doesn't see much higher than 14, 15. The question is, can I really position myself in a way where I can lose a little and make a lot? And it seems like that's kind of hard in this scenario where it's just crappy for short sellers. So I'll probably just let this one live its best life and look to avoid it, long and short from up here. I don't want to buy a stock that's extended like this, and I don't really want to short something that is like this thin. So
yeah, even in after hours yesterday, they kind of whack it down to the 8s, and then it's back up near green or red green right now. So when it's trending, it can perk off those and hold higher lows really nicely. That's just not the way I trade. William says, I've been green every day this month except this Monday and last Monday. Yeah, I definitely can see William falling into the trap of getting a little too excited on Mondays. But congrats on every other day this month. 16 days in, or probably not all trade days, 13, 14 days in. That's got to be solid. Got to be solid. All right, another question. We'll get out of here. BDRX former runner failure 2 thoughts.
First of all, I would not call it a former runner. That's my first thought.
I would call this a former gapper for 4 times now.
And then failed, or maybe had one day of green and the other ones failed, or didn't really run all that much.
I would say like what? 90. They all except one close below the open, or maybe this one's green right here, but doesn't hold gains, doesn't spike all that hard. Whatever happens after that, if you just waited a week, it's a lot lower. Yeah, I don't have high hopes for this. When stocks show their true colors, whether it's through the dilution and fundamentals, the filings, the catalyst, like at the end of the day, this is why I like technicals the most, because I learn more from looking at this 100 days of BDRX about who BDRX is than I do pouring through filings and wondering what they're potentially going to do with what they have. Because this is stock that just doesn't hold up. Anytime it's higher than it should be, it comes back down. And we've seen stocks plenty of times break that mold and switch trends. But if you are, a long bias trader, I don't look at this and think anything other than I don't ever want to be long it. And if it does squeeze and go, then it squeezes and goes without me. I'd rather look at the stock that every one of these days that has volume is a giant green candle followed by a gap up day. And then I get an edge. And you could probably look at this to the short side, but it's 18% up on the day. I don't know what the question was. There was no real pattern or anything associated with it. Not a big percent move here, so not a first green day or anything today. This is one that would never come across my desk, and one that if it did, like right now, it would never stay on my desk.
And I would not call it a former runner.
It's not a former runner. Former runners got to run. We don't like pre-market run. We like day run. William says DJT got me yesterday. Yeah, because DJT wasn't a pattern. But I know William doesn't care about that. All right, 9:16. Great turnout today. Thank you guys for your participation. We'll see all you Clovers over in the room right now. If you want access to 3 or 4 leaf, you can over at clovertrading.io and get access to our webinars, our watch list, our video lessons, our trade alerts, the room, all that good stuff. And I have a webinar today at 11 a.m. I don't know if Huddie's joining me or not, but looking forward to that. Tomorrow, 23 hours and 59 minutes from right now, we'll do some live trading. Kai will be here. Hopefully the market continues to stay warm and we have stuff to talk about and trades to take. But if not, we'll be here anyway. So bring your questions, bring your lively attitudes, bring your like button clicking, and we will see you then. So this has been another edition of Good Morning NASDAQ, and we will see you all tomorrow. So have a wonderful, wonderful day.